Right. Welcome to Mixed Media, the weekly podcast dedicated to all things art. A particular emphasis on our respective fields of study and specialty, um, mostly, but not limited to, film and music and video games. Um, so, yeah, and no, normally we are a Monday night podcast, or Tuesday night. Sorry, Tuesday night podcast, streaming live. But tonight we are here on Friday. So if you are uh, watching us live, which hopefully some people might be out there, hello, welcome to interact with us, join us, post, leave comments in the discussion feed. Let us know what you think. Yeah. So we have one of our members absent, at least visually. Irving is not here tonight.
So
You have him as a disembodied voice here. At least if you're watching us. As a reminder, you can find our podcast everywhere you can get podcasts. You can also look at YouTube and Rumble to see us live stream podcast. If you want to see our reactions, right, see what we're doing, you can do that too. Not just go beyond the pure audio experience. Yeah. So if you are looking for ways you can find where we are, interact with us on our Discord, and or support us on our locals page, link down there, mixedmediapodcast.com. Special shout out to our subscribers and supporters on locals: K Kairos, 909 Crime, Alex Egbert, and Post. So my name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer. I'll let my co-host introduce himself.
My name is Nathan Esther. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
And I'll be here for the first bit, like semi-interacting, the first segment here. And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, so I guess I don't normally lead us off here, so make sure I getting everything. So let's how are your all's weeks? For me, I've been kind of out of it a little bit because I went to go. My whole family went to go visit my brother, and his fiance out in Hawaii. So long trip. I actually missed the last show because or whatever was that the last show. I can't even remember. I got in the middle of flying. I forgot about the show. Yeah, it was a really nice trip. Although it's always hard doing trips with a large group of people. Yeah, and then other than that, for me, if you go back a couple of weeks to a show where I was talking about selecting lyrics for a piece of music, a choral piece that I've had in mind. I've been thinking quite a bit about that, and I think I know which direction I'm going.
Ooh.
So that's good. Yeah, and I have another kind of flute-related venture, in the kind of film music world potentially coming up that I'm hopeful will happen, but not going to reveal anything yet since not final. So, but something hopefully fun on the horizon.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'll go next real quick. Yeah, I was in New Jersey for the last week, visiting family and whatnot, for most of it. And right now I am catching up on a week's worth of not being home doing work, so I am losing my mind. I did a home inspection for the first 3 hours of the day on the property that I've mentioned before. it's a property that's that was built in 1890, so very old. But thankfully, extremely structurally sound. No
That's good.
infrastructure problems, but we did find the oddest stuff I didn't notice. I've been in that place several times since wanting to negotiate that building. Are we live on? Hold on. Oh yeah, we're live on YouTube. On Rumble, we've frozen for some reason. Okay.
Oh.
I will fix that in the background in a moment. But yeah, the building has a lot of stories to tell that I didn't notice. Particularly extremely high ceilings in the restaurant portion of the building that I never knew existed. When you moved a panel, you could actually see the original ceiling tiles. Classic sort of Victorian, Art Deco-esque looking stuff, and very beautiful. And hopefully I have a tenant that can take advantage of such a thing, because I think it could be revived maybe. And in the basement, we found out that the door that this is just a funny story, the door that we thought was the side door that goes out of the building, there's a little step from the sidewalk that goes down to the basement level, or you can enter the basement level. There was a door we assumed was that door, because, it looks like an exit door. And I've never actually walked through that door to the outside. Then I was going through with the inspector, and he was like, "That's not the door." And I was like, "What do you mean that's not the door?" I was like, "What does this door do then? It is literally on the edge of the basement. Where does it go?"
Door to nothing.
And he opens it, or we go up to it, and it's just cinder blocks behind this door. I literally had a moment. So
literally a door to nothing, yeah.
Exactly. And I literally stop for a moment, and I'm literally feel the weird haunted feeling of what is that? Why is it like that? And it's hiding the portal to some horrible place.
Oh, I was gonna say something more I don't know, Chronicles of Narnia or something. But
okay. Maybe it's hiding the portal to a fantastic place.
Yeah, something a little more cheerful than yeah, a horror movie.
But we logicked it, because there are windows there too, but I had imagined the windows were bricked up a long time ago when the basement was put out of use, because it used to be a chocolate factory down there, oddly enough. And the windows I thought were boarded up when it stopped being a chocolate factory to save on energy, heat, whatever, and not having to maintain the window. And it's actually the door there is also bricked up, and I was like, oh wait, this whole thing is bricked up. Where does the other door go? And it's the weirdest looking door that actually goes to the outside. It looks like a closet door. I assumed it was a closet, actually. So the closet door is actually the exit door. And it's funny because the original, that other exit door actually says exit on it. It says exit on it, and it goes to a brick wall. But it turns out that the building's lower level on the street, on that side of the building, used to be exposed. Used to be, which is weird because it's below ground, so you're how's that makes any sense? But apparently the road probably was a lot skinnier, and the sidewalk probably was non-existent when the building was built. So the road kind of probably dropped off, and the building had its own little courtyard section, if that makes sense, little, and probably had little seating outside. And I was like, that's so cool. And then I imagined it, and I thought it was so sick, and then I was sad because it will never be again. So, but I just wanted to share that fun story. It was a very perplexing moment of my day. I was like, what is this? I got very scared. I almost backed out.
Is that going to make its way into a future script?
Maybe. It may work its way into the literal repurposing of that space if it ends up being used as a commercial space one day. Those windows that face the concrete, the cinder block walls, could easily be replaced with stained glass, like Victorian-esque stained glass, with lighting behind it so that like you can't see the cinder blocks that kind of emulate sunlight coming in, and that might be a cool homage to the old way the building used to be. That was the immediate thought I had when I was underneath there. So, yeah, really strange. Had a lot of questions afterward.
Nice. Yeah, so my week's been chill, I guess. I filed for tax returns the first time today. That was interesting. And now I'm here.
You're still alive.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, it's extremely painful. Do taxes. It takes forever. It takes forever every single time.
Yeah.
At least it takes a lot longer for me because I have a business too. So like, I have to also file all the granular details of that as well.
Yeah, my stuff is probably a lot simpler because just 2 jobs I had last year, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right. Any news in the art world?
Yeah. So everyone might not want to hear this, but there's a potential The Last of Us 3 coming out potentially. It's currently apparently a documentary of the making of Last of Us Part 2 came out called Grounded 2. I didn't watch it. It's a 2-hour-long documentary, and apparently a quote that comes from it is, quote, "The next project at Naughty Dog is not The Last of Us, but The Last of Us 3 is at the concept level since there is one more chapter to the story." And then I read a different source that a quote saying that Neil Druckmann. So the quote is from Neil Druckmann, who's the president of Naughty Dog. He also said this quote too. So he said, so paraphrasing, he said that he felt that he'd come up with one more chapter. He doesn't have a story yet planned out for the sequel, but he quote has a concept for another game that will be its own thing, but will also, quote, act like a through line for all 3. So, yeah, that's that, I guess. I'm not really sure if that's bad or good. I guess I haven't played any of them, so
it's probably bad, I would guess. But Neil Druckmann directed all 3 games. Actually, Nathan, you should do a episode on directing games. That's like a topic I've been curious about. Like, what does that even mean? Like,
I'll have to do a lot of research for sure, because that's not something that I've even looked into that much. Considering I work solo almost entirely. I just direct myself. So, yeah. And games I have worked on in partnership, I've never taken on the director role, I suppose. So that'd be interesting to look into though and figure out what goes on there.
Yeah, because I've seen him talk behind the scenes about his work, and he sounds a lot like a film director in the way he describes certain things, but I don't know if that's just because of who he is, if you get what I mean, or if that's common or not, because he seems to be very storyteller driven. He seems to have a very filmic mindset, if that makes sense.
I think that would make sense for The Last of Us 2, The Last of Us in general, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm curious if there's a general, a more general understanding of a game director.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Aside from that, this is not really that new news. So, I mean, if you're in the video game world, you almost certainly heard. I would imagine you've heard this before, but I guess otherwise this is news. A game called Palworld came out, and it broke some records. It currently holds the number 2 slot for peak concurrent players on Steam. It had 2.1 million concurrent users, beating out Counter-Strike 2 and being below PUBG. It also, according to Microsoft, or presumably according to Xbox technically, it got the record for the most, I don't know if it's the most plays or most downloads, some metric like that, on Game Pass. That was from a third party, so not a Xbox funded game or whatever, some other game. So that's kind of crazy. And people were saying, what is this Power World game, and why do people like it so much? This is the tagline that's often given, and based on the footage, it seems questionable, but it's often called Pokemon with guns. Now, apparently it takes quite a long time to acquire any guns. Although I can confirm there are quite a lot of Pokemon elements, to the point where Nintendo has actually released a statement saying they're looking into Power World. Well, they didn't name it, but like we all know what they're talking about. They said they're looking into a game that has a lot of similarities and seeing if any legal action needs to be taken. I don't know. I was one of those, like, I don't know. Everybody knows this because he knows a bunch of legal stuff. Like, why wouldn't you just mention Power World by name? It's like very obvious. That is the only thing you could possibly be talking about here.
Was he making truth claims?
No, I don't think it wasn't like they have infringed on copyright. It's just like we're investigating.
So. It might just be stupid PR stuff. I don't know. They just feel like they don't want to name it. I don't know. I don't know. If you disclaim it enough, then you could probably say, in our opinion, it looks like this is what's happening, to avoid like defamation problems, if that's what you're worried about.
I don't know. They didn't even like make an accusation. Well, yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're apparently looking into it. They haven't said anything after that, so I don't know if they've finished looking into it or not. At least no legal action has been taken yet. Now, I did upload a image, if you can show that, Irving, and it shows essentially what they're talking about. So a lot of the designs of the creatures in the game Power World, which are called pals, look kind of like they're definitely like, okay, I should say definitely. They very much seem to be stylized based on the Pokemon style, taken from the style, which is okay. But there is some question about certain specific pal designs that seem like they could be too similar to existing Pokemon designs. So not just using the general Pokemon style, but actually, ripping off particular Pokemons. I don't know if I am sold on that.
Yeah, is it like highly like specific Pokemon, or is it like, Pokemon is like a lot of generic birds, right? It's like, well, we have a generic bird. Like, I'm just curious.
So yeah, there are like you can find articles if you look up like Power World, Pokemon similarities. You'll find a bunch of images and whatever about like various comparisons, and you really find people circulating the same like 10 or so designs. And there are a lot of Pokemon and a lot of pals. So like, especially with Pokemon, it's kind of hard to not accidentally make a Pokemon if you're making mythical creatures, because like there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
On the screen now you can see. Oh, it's gone.
Oops, sorry.
There it is. There you go. You can see an example of one of them. It's kind of like a flying stingray. I can kind of like. I chose this image because I thought this was probably the one that would convince me the most, and it doesn't even convince me that much. Yeah,
that's. I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but it's also, as you pointed out, it's probably hard not to copy Pokemon because, and I thought there were a lot of Pokemon like back when I was interested in it, which is like the first 3 generations. Mm-hmm. What are they on, like generation like 7 or now? Or,
I'm not sure.
Like the number is just kind of Pokemon that are out there. It's just kind of bewildering.
There are currently just over 1,000 Pokemon. So
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of like basic animals that have been turned into Pokemon. A lot of like basic natural phenomena that have been turned into Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up again because like I don't think actually don't you, which one's the Pokemon one?
The right.
The right.
On the right. Okay. I mean,
I could honestly see them like coexisting.
Yeah, they could even be in the same game and be different Pokemon potentially if they were both Pokemon.
Or like one evolves into the other.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, so I mean, the other designs, if you look at them, the other dozen or so that are constantly mentioned, they also seem like one of them's like a wolf. It's like it just looks like a kind of like if someone just said draw a stylized wolf and they made that, I'd be like, this doesn't even seem like a Pokemon style specifically. It's just a stylized wolf, One of them's name is Anubis, and he just looks like the Egyptian god Anubis. So
Pokemon is also like, especially early on too. They're kind of almost tongue-in-cheek like designs and names, like Pidgey, Pidgeotto, Pidgeot. Like, yes, they're just like, they're actually not like doves or pigeons, but they're just like a generic sparrow. And they have, I mean, isn't it also like isn't it like Spearow and like Fearow, who are also birds? Or like, I don't know, they have like the fire dog, and isn't it some like, how isn't it literally like hound dog or something like that?
Something like that.
Especially early on, like they're not really hiding what some of these things are,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like another comparison is given like that I think would fit that description would be like Piplup, which is like a small penguin type dude. And in Palworld, there's like a penguin type pal, and it's like, how if you're using if it's a very Pokemon style game and you're also making a penguin, how different is it really going to be? It's just a stylized blue little penguin thing. So I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it's cause for concern.
You have to make it red or green.
Right. One thing that is a little bit concerning is that I think the developer on Twitter said that he took no inspiration from Pokemon. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it was. I can't remember. I saw this tweet like a while ago, so I can't remember what exactly said. I don't know if it was exactly like, we didn't take any inspiration from Pokemon, or we didn't take any inspiration of designs for Pokemon, because clearly the gameplay elements, like, there are literally Pokeballs. Like, you throw Pokeballs at the pals to catch them. There's a chance that you catch them or not.
What are they called?
Pokeballs? Actually, I don't know what they're called. Yeah, maybe Palworld Pokeball.
Yeah, you just have to make it a square instead of a ball,
right?
Or a cube, right? You throw a cube.
Yeah. I don't know what they're called. Palworld.
Yeah, if he's throwing something to capture the animals, I mean that's got to be Pokemon, Pokemon inspired, right?
It's a sphere, It's like, how to catch pals in Palworld. Please explain. You have to raise the capture rate by damaging the enemy, which is
That's exactly how Pokemon works. Yeah.
Let's see, what's called the Pal Sphere. That's just what it's called.
Pal Sphere.
Yeah. And
that's literally like Pokeball. Pal Sphere is like literally like a literal analogous term. Like,
yeah. I didn't think about that.
They didn't even take my cube idea. You could have Pal Cube.
What? I don't know. I feel like the animation. I think the animation is the same. Where like when you capture, when you throw a Pokeball you throw a Pal Sphere at a Pal. The Pal goes inside the ball, but like regardless, like 100% chance, but like it might come out. Saying that's it doesn't like like that's just how same thing in Pokemon, right? Where it just shakes a little bit and then it could come out or not.
Wow.
So a little bit shameless there, I guess. But people say, well, it's just the mechanic, and Pokemon has never innovated in a million years, and like is it that bad? I don't really know.
Man,
so I've never heard of this game. Is it like popular?
Oh yeah, it's at broke records. So yeah, it had at peak 2.1 concurrent players, second most concurrent players ever on Steam. And like just it's new, which is weird. Like it just like came out of nowhere too. It wasn't like some hyped up thing. Like it just came out of nowhere, out of left field from like a unknown-ish developer.
You could just do bird watching, and it's just playing Pokemon in real life, and you just don't get to take the birds home in a ball.
That's the fun of it.
I always felt bad for them getting like literally like trapped inside.
Yeah, it's like just imagine like if you could do something like that in our world. You just go, you're just going up to like, oh, there's a beaver, and I'm just Whereas I'm walking by, I'm gonna throw a ball and I'm gonna capture it.
No, but you have to beat it up first in order to get the capture rate up.
It's so like it's kind of unethical, right? Like this would be very illegal if you did that in the real world.
Right.
You know, like, oh, it's an otter. You know, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it and then I'm gonna use it as my dog fighting companion.
Yeah, it is kind of a an animal fighting game. Yeah, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, so that's that, I guess. The developers of that game are called Pocket Pair. Sounds like a.
Isn't that also like a reference to Pokemon?
Is it
Poke Pocket?
Is that what that means?
Yeah, I think it's Pokemon like Pocket Monster.
No way.
I did not know that.
Oh well,
that's hilarious.
There you go. It is called Pocket Pair, the developers, but that wasn't their first game. I don't know what the first game was, but they released so part of the controversy is that the game they released before also is like clearly like a very very much based off of Legends of Zelda. The style in terms of style and gameplay, I assume it probably has very similar tropes such as Pal Sphere instead of whatever Legends of Zelda thing is, and they are there's a trailer currently out for a game called Nevergrave, which looks a lot like Hollow Knight, I think is being compared to, so in both style and gameplay. So it seems like they're in the business of doing that, I guess. So yeah, that's
I guess is this kind of like an analog to Disney turning every film into a live action remake?
It's at least with Disney they owned the film to begin with, you know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, you guys don't even own them. But I suppose they're different enough, I guess. I don't know. Although this thing I'm looking at looks a lot like Jigglypuff. What the heck? Let me take a screenshot of this. I'll send it in Discord. There's like 3 creatures there, but you can see the Piplup looking thing in that as well. And also,
this is not Pokemon. Wait, what?
No, that is not Pokemon.
Wait, okay. This is much more alarming.
I just found it on their website, on the Pocket Fair website. I didn't mean to.
Let me pull this up. Let's see. All right, here it is.
That thing in the middle looks like Jigglypuff, right? Like, I'm not imagining that, right?
It looks. It's got cat-like features. Weirdly though.
The penguin kind of reminds me. What's the guy's name? Like Tyrone from the Backyardigans.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
oh wait, it's not Tyrone. It's not Tyrone. It's. I know what you're talking about, but Tyrone's like the moose guy.
Okay, whoever the penguin was from the Backyardigans.
Oh my god!
I need to look this up now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is it Pablo?
Pablo.
Yeah, it's Pablo. It's Pablo. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit sketchy. That one. Yeah. Other than Power World and The Last of Us, was that? I feel like I had something else to say. Was that it? That might be it, actually. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Nice. I'll just say quick because I might step off in a second. But the biggest thing that came across my screen was Barbie. Everyone's talking about Barbie because the Oscar nominations came out on like last week sometime. And Barbie apparently got snubbed. It did literally get nominated for, I think, 8 nominations, which is, I mean, that's a lot of nominations. That's not nothing. But it didn't get a best director or best what's it called, lead actress nominations, and these are supposed to be controversial non-nominations. and everyone knows on this channel, if you've been watching this channel, that I am not a fan of this movie in general at all. In fact, like, even like I didn't do a review on it because like I feel like it would just be like me having an aneurysm for like for a half hour, and I just don't want to like go through it for like a movie that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I literally think this movie exists as social media bait and nothing else. Like, so, you know, in like 2 years, is anyone going to remember the movie Barbie? Probably not. You know, I'm not sure. But everyone's all in a ruckus about it. But they're all being corny, in my opinion. Particularly because like the movie. Okay, like let me just assume the movie was fine, which is a huge assumption. But let's just go with it. And like assessing the commentary that's happening around Barbie about like particularly the direction and Margot Robbie's roles is so over exaggerated. It's ridiculous. It's like, I mean, like, what was charming? What did everyone like about the film? Like, I don't know. They got their slogans in the film. Okay, so they might like that. That's kind of a writing thing. They might like the synergy between Ken and Barbie, maybe, or something like this, or they might like think Ken was super funny. I think actually Ken kind of stole the show, but no one wants to say that for a movie like this. That Ryan Gosling actually probably stole every scene that he was in, which kind of like is very ironic for the film's point. But yeah, okay, whatever. Like, okay, Ryan Gosling was pretty good. Margot Robbie was pretty good for the script that she was given. But like, is it that you watched it? Like, is it that you felt that you really liked it because of Margot Robbie though? Like, I feel like I wouldn't like it. I would understand it. You know what I mean? If she didn't get the nomination for it. But even more so, the Greta Gerwig quote unquote snub is like, I mean, is it the direction? Like, I don't really think that's like part of most people's enjoyment of the film, like as like the main contributing factor. I guess it's odd that it receives a Best Picture nomination. I don't even think it probably should get that. But, you know, typically when you get Best Picture nominations for a film that's very large, you get a Best Director sort of like kind of 2-for-1 special, you know. Nomination at least. But like direction actually means something, like, you know, separate from like, was the movie good? so like, is there anything like particularly even Greta like about this film? Like, I couldn't like, there was nothing Greta like about this film. Lady Bird I thought was a pretty good film, and I enjoyed it, and I could feel the unique voice of Greta Gerwig in Lady Bird. But in this film, it's just like stale, like corporate, like, you know, unfeeling. Like, there's no voice in it. It's just kind of like a hollow representation of Mattel trying to rebrand itself. So like, I don't know. I did. I don't really understand these critiques. But Ryan Gosling said, there is no Ken without Barbie, and there's no Barbie movie without Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, the two people most responsible for this history-making. I would like that to be explained, by the way. History-making. Please explain that term to me. Globally celebrated film. Not really globally, if you mean like maybe the United States and Canada. I don't know what globally means. But you know, not. I would have to look at the worldwide box office again, but like, I highly doubt it's historically globally celebrated or anything like that. So let's see. Yeah, so like, people are just kind of being cringe about it, and they'll forget about it once the news cycle changes, probably. And will anything change in Hollywood? Like, does it even matter? It probably matters zero. Nothing. None of this matters. It's just kind of, I think, overhyped conversation about an overhyped movie. So maybe I'm just being bitter because I just really dislike this movie very heavily. But I don't know. I can see the corporatist fingers of this movie. Like, it's so obvious to me, it almost hurts how bad Mattel really, really, really wanted to change its brand, no matter how nonsensical the film they made out of it was. To the point where it's like vomit-inducing to me. But I don't know. To each his own, I suppose. So that's all I'll say about that.
All right. Well, I just add on the music side. I saw that Tom Holkenborg is going to be scoring Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is kind of a surprise to me because I didn't realize there's a Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But apparently there is.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Not either.
So I don't know. So I went to actually listen to the score for the first film. It's actually pretty good. But Tom Holkenborg is a good composer. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting though. It caught my eye. I'm like, what? I didn't even realize this is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I thought Sonic the Hedgehog was like so plagued with problems and took so many years to come out. It only came out in like 2020, right? Like,
oh, this was the hair like debacle, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know how they got a Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Like,
I wonder if they changed it for. Oh no, they redid the animations.
First one. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Well, that's all I
wonder how crazy it would be I remember, like, I think his eyes changed, I think, because I think they were like more real to the game, where like his eyes are connected, which is really weird to look at in 3D. and then they changed some hair stuff. But I wonder how much that would matter, because, well, obviously that's not like that's not a negligible thing to do in terms of like time or whatever. But like all the animations are actually still there, right? And they probably all still work pretty much, So they're just changing the model, and then hopefully, most things just kind of fall into place fine.
There's almost certainly a render cost associated, though. That's probably pretty crazy.
That's true, depending on how. Yeah, I mean, at that time we just saw the trailer, so it's unclear how much of it was finally rendered out. Like the trailer was, certainly like essentially finally rendered out, but obviously that's not, that's only a couple minutes maybe.
Right, that's true. Sonic.
All right. Well, I guess, is that all we have for this?
Yep, it's all for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll get going with mixed media music. So thanks for watching and listening to our news section, and stick around if you're watching live for a review of Taylor Swift's 1989 Taylor's version.
Yes, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to not talk for the rest of the episode, so that's the end of it for me. So I'll see you next week, and enjoy the rest of the show.
See you next week.
Mixed Media Music.
All right. Welcome to Mixed Media Music, the portion of Mixed Media Podcast dedicated to all things music, with a particular emphasis on classical music and on media music. I am the main host for Mixed Media Music. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer. And normally we have two co-hosts, but Irving will not be with us tonight. So I'll let my one co-host tonight introduce himself.
Yes. My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
All right. Well, tonight on Mixed Media Music, I'm going to talk about Taylor Swift's album, 1989, the Taylor's version, the non-deluxe version of that, though. A lot of versions of things, as I learned with Taylor Swift. Now, I came into listening to this album with the perspective of like someone who has no knowledge of Taylor Swift whatsoever. So the question is, why on earth I'm listening to Taylor Swift, which is a great question. And I think we actually talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, I don't remember why. Somehow Taylor Swift came up on one of our shows, and I'm like, I really ought to listen to some of her music, and so I'm sure if you go back, you can find whatever the discussion was. But I had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, I need to review something. And Taylor Swift has been the person in the music sphere for quite a while now. Yeah, you can't open a newspaper. Well, not that anybody opens a newspaper. You can't open a news website these days without a Taylor Swift headline of some kind. And to me, honestly, my recollection of Taylor Swift, I remember like the song like Romeo and Juliet back in like 2009 or something like that. And I just recall her being like this kind of country person, and then she kind of disappeared like from my radar completely, and then suddenly it's like overnight, like everyone's a super Taylor Swift fan. Like, wait, she's still around? Shows you how little attention I pay to the popular music world. Yeah, so I figured, what, I should listen to some of this so I'm not such a uneducated person, right? I don't have my head completely under a rock, which I apparently do. I mean, I know that, but anyway, when it comes to this sort of thing, yeah. Well, so to show my enthusiasm for this project that I set out to, for this assignment I gave myself, I was telling my co-host earlier that I looked through all of her, Taylor's version, the new re-released versions of her earlier albums, and I picked the shortest one. And this is still a 21-track album, and this is a non-deluxe edition. The regular version is 21 tracks, and it's an hour and 20 minutes long, which is a lot. And that's the shortest of these. So, okay, first off, like, hats off to Taylor Swift for coming up with a ton of music. It's a lot of music to write. I don't know, does anybody else even like come close to matching that kind of output? I have
never heard of such a thing before.
it's pretty spectacular, and like these are all well done songs. It's not like someone messing around with a guitar in their basement and with GarageBand or whatever. These are like very obviously well done tracks, and there are a lot of them. Okay, so in retrospect, stylistically, 1989 is probably not the album that I should have selected. But like I said, I selected it for its length, which is still quite a lot. That's a lot. An hour and 20 minutes is a lot of music, especially for something that you don't know anything about. So I'm not going to pretend to understand any of the. I understand the lyrics. Okay, we'll talk about the lyrics in a second. But I understand there's like the whole, we got to guess which guy Taylor Swift is talking about in which song. Beyond me, of no interest to me. So I can't comment on that. But I know there are lots of people who do want to understand every detail of these songs as it pertains to her life and how autobiographical they are. No idea. Okay. So it's almost not worth really diving into all 21 tracks because I'll put it this way. It's a little bit monotonous. And I know I'm not like the person who, should be judging this, right? I come from a very classical background, okay? So pop music is not my thing at all. So again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. But to my ears, over 21 tracks, it's pretty monotonous. I'd say each song individually is probably generally well done. But, we out of these 21 tracks, the only ones that are truly different in like any meaningful musical way are actually, it turns out, two songs that I did know. Like I was aware of these songs, but I didn't realize they're Taylor Swift songs. So it shows you again how little attention I pay to the popular music world. And so the songs "Shake It Off" and "Bad Blood." Like I said, I was aware of these songs. I didn't know they were Taylor Swift songs. They're probably the most different musically, but they're pretty similar to each other. musically. They're a little more upbeat and a little bit more like pop synth driving sort of feel. Okay, so again, I want to just kind of talk about this in like a general overview without delving into like specifics. And part of that also is because, because several reasons. If I delve into too many specifics, I don't want to say anything too controversial, and I'm sure I've already been controversial enough. Two, you probably could have a really interesting discussion of any one or number of these songs, but it's a little hard to do that without playing snippets from them, and that would be not good legally. So we're going to stick with a general overview of some things. So the thing that struck me the most listening through this album, and again, I can't say that this is like emblematic of all of Taylor Swift's writing, at least of the tracks on this album. Now, again, obviously a very popular album, even amongst the Taylor Swift world. My understanding, just from reading a little bit about it, is that it was it had the title or won the award, so to speak, of most streamed album on a single day. I think it's on its release of last year on Spotify, and the most streamed album on a single day of all time on Amazon Music. So
I'm actually very surprised. I feel like I didn't really like hear much about it when it came out. I mean, I'm not really connected into the Taylor Swift scene, I suppose, but I would still expect to hear about it randomly.
Yeah, my sense from the people that I know is that I think most of them prefer Red, but maybe that's just, I could be completely wrong, so I don't really know any of this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, the thing that first struck me is like this concept of repetition and like structural repetition and like macro, or maybe some macro and micro repetition. So one thing I guess that I was sort of thinking about, this reminded me of this general principle that seems to hold in a lot of Western music, and not just classical music. But this really kind of holds true to pretty much all music written, in the West, so to speak. And this is, I don't know if there's a good term for it, but we might call it the rule of threes, which is when on a micro scale, if we're going to repeat an idea, we have idea, repetition of the idea, but it is altered in some way. And this is a pretty well-established thing, even in popular music. I'd say like rock and roll depends very heavily on this sort of principle. Classical music does as well. But rock and roll, I was thinking, my instinct from having listened to it over the years is that, it's kind of a simpler texture and simpler musically, what everything's going on. So in order to create interest, you need to establish an idea and then vary it, because in general, I think this sort of rule of threes, we'll call it, it keeps our attention, and I don't find this is what Taylor Swift does. So a lot of times we're going to get repetition from her, especially repetition lyrically and musically, and it'll often be, if it's in a group of three, it'll be idea, then something different. Often we're going to go into like the chorus, so to speak, of the song, if we can really call it that. Now this, I see this as what she's doing is she's using repetition as means of building anticipation to something bigger, and what you're going to sing along to, right, the chorus. But I don't know that I find it as effective as generally, I guess if you're going to repeat something to create tension, right? Build up to something, build up our expectations. You want to do at least something where you're gonna like build in intensity, or like volume, maybe, right? Or add more instruments to it, or slow down or speed it up. If you're not going to change like the notes at all, or you could do what I said, right? Idea, but varied. Then we get something new. I find either of those things to be more effective. Why this seems what Taylor Swift does, which is idea, something bigger. Why I think that is being used, it almost seems like there's an implicit expectation in the music that because this is it's almost like this is a rhetorical device that she uses, and it doesn't actually matter what the music is saying. It's that because it is repeated in this way, you can expect something big to come next. Instead of the music kind of creating that expectation, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon. Now, I could be, again, reading this completely wrong, but that is how I read it. That is almost like an implicit, like you're just supposed to know that if I repeat this enough, something bigger is going to happen afterwards. So there's an implicit buildup of tension, not an explicit one. Yeah. Now, I would say, again, although I think pretty much every song is well done, I would give particular, applause to song Style, and Slut, which you need to have an exclamation mark. It's Slut with an exclamation mark. I think those are probably the most musically interesting songs. But in general, I don't find any of them to be of much note musically. It almost feels to me that the songs are kind of interchangeable. Like I could just take the lyrics from one song and put it on another. Now, again, that might be kind of a heretical statement to a lot of people. But I would say, like, with the exception of Bad Blood and Shake It Off, which are kind of twins to each other, all the other songs, I probably honestly wouldn't notice if you had to switch your lyrics and, with the different songs' music. So what I think the strength of Taylor Swift's writing on this album is her lyric writing. I think she has a lot of interesting metaphors that she uses, and a lot of interesting images that she uses across all of these songs. But that being said, so again, her strength is almost kind of being like sort of poetic in some of these, somewhat. Lots of repetition, though. Maybe a little bit more repetition of basic like song titles. Basically, if it's a song title, she's going to repeat that line a lot. But like overall, lyrically, some of these are kind of poetic, but they also are. It's also 21 songs. Well, 20. The very only one song is lyrically different. That's the very first song, called "Welcome to New York," and here I guess we have, this idea of like moving to New York to try and pursue one's career and being this big thing, and you're going to get lost in it, but that's okay because it's still like a fun thing to be lost in New York. Other than that, we've got 20 songs that are all about love in some way, either falling into love, breaking up with somebody, having been broken up and wanting to get back with them, or having broken up with them and not quite being over it, but also kind of hating the person, or falling in love, but like I know I'm going to do it in a somewhat manipulative way. These are kind of the shades.
These don't seem like very good relationships.
No, I don't think there's a single healthy relationship.
Oh boy.
In this album. Yeah, I don't think there's a single healthy relationship. Now, so we're not very musically differentiated, and thematically, there's not much differentiation either. Um, so it's okay to have. I went back and I was thinking about some of my favorite popular music albums. I know it's mean pop, but like non-classical and non like orchestral sorts of things, um, or jazz, non-jazz. And I was thinking, what what is an appropriate like amount of thematic um, breadth that an album ought to have? And the answer is, I think it really varies. So like, you could look at like early Beatles, or even kind of mid-period Beatles, right? And like you look at the album, A Hard Day's Night, or Rubber Soul. These are all love songs. Now, different shades of love. Okay, well, I guess we do have the song "Nowhere Man" on Rubber Soul, but otherwise, these are all entirely love songs. Now, again, we have some that are like, the Rubber Soul ends with "Run for your life." Like, if I catch you cheating with another man, you better run for your life, girl. Okay, not a healthy relationship, but still love. Jealousy, but okay, we're still in the same world. Um, but yeah, these are all generally entirely albums of nothing but love songs. But they're really effective still because they're all different musically, right? You wouldn't get Michelle mixed up with And I Love Her, right? Um, they're just so different musically, and they're also a lot of them are very interesting musically. Um, you could also go in the direction of like a lot of breadth in what the kind of themes that you're exploring. You might look at the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, where we've got all kinds of like, we've got love, but like from all sorts of different perspectives, but also other things too, like the feeling of creative alienation and right, and um, you know questions of like, is it ethical to use drugs, sorts of things, in terms of creativity. Um, so lots of different topics. Um, or I'm a huge fan of Nick Drake. And a lot of love songs, but like really poetic, and like you could probably just read the lyrics as a poem. And also really different in a lot of ways, lot of different musical things happening. So I just don't feel like that's really something that happens here. We're kind of thematically monotonous, even if yes, we're talking about different kinds of love and falling into and out of love, but it's just love. Um, I say that kind of cavalierly, but that's all there is really, thematically. And also, we're not doing much musically that like is going to differentiate these sorts of things. So if we're not going to like have different musical feelings, um, and we're also not really going to be varying what we do thematically, it's a little bit difficult to get through. It'd be one thing if you just want to take, one of these songs that appeals to you the most and like latch on to that. But in its entirety, it's just kind of a monotonous album to listen to. We're really just not doing much, musically, that it's a lot of the same sorts of patterns, same sort of color palette, which again, you can use the same color palette. Beatles pretty mostly do that throughout their songs, but they're varying what they do musically. You have interesting harmonies and interesting kind of lyrical lines and big stylistic contrast within songs. There's often not really a big stylistic contrast within a Taylor Swift 1989 song. The contrast is often like verse and chorus, and this is going to be more, going to be a little bit louder, more synths, right? And I'm going to sing with a little bit more passion and more repetition. So it's kind of less and more, but not very like stylistic idea, contrasting the stylistic idea. Yeah, and finally, I would say, I guess, you know, um, there's sometimes a little bit of a mismatch between, I think, lyrical meaning and tone of a song. Now, this is a difficult question, though, to kind of ponder because a lot of times there's a mismatch in all kinds of music between lyrics and song, or lyric and music, I should say. So when do we reach kind of an acceptable? When is that acceptable? When isn't it acceptable? And that's a question I'm not sure I can answer. Some of it's just kind of instinct. Maybe I probably have a different opinion than every other person on earth. We all have our own opinions on this. Sometimes I think it works really well to have music that doesn't quite match in tone, but can maybe match in intensity the lyrics. Sometimes having something that's a little bit different complements the lyrics really well, or the lyrics complement the music in an interesting way. I often find that to be the case with like a Steely Dan, where we've got really interesting music, lyrics that tell a story, mostly stories about underworld, kind of, less than morally upright characters, but kind of exploring them. To kind of, interesting music in ways that the music complement what is happening, but it's not necessarily doing exactly what the lyrics say all the time. I think they're really effective with that. I might point to something like the song Gaucho, where, I don't know, it's got so many interesting things that are happening musically, in terms of its chords, in terms of its structure, in terms of its instrumentation in certain places that don't quite match sort of what is happening lyrically, but kind of add a depth to what is happening lyrically in a way. And I'm not entirely sure, maybe just because I feel like some of the music is so interchangeable in some of these tracks. Maybe if I listened to it a couple more times, I wouldn't feel this way. But my instinct, my initial sense is that I don't know that the tone is always matched to the lyrics in some of these songs, and when they don't match, it can feel a little somewhat strange to me. Like, at least I don't understand why. I'm not saying it's strange, but I don't really understand why the musical tone doesn't seem to match the lyrics tone. So yeah, all that being said, interesting listening experience. I now understand a little bit of who Taylor Swift is, I suppose. Again, lyrically really well done. I think, again, great lyrics generally, like lyrical craftsmanship. The fact that you can just keep churning out these songs is impressive, and I can totally get why her music appeals to a certain segment of the population. Okay, no question, like, why this has such vast appeal right now. I mean, I'm not sure musically why that is, but I think lyrically, in like the combination of lyrics and the emotion behind the way that she's singing, I understand the appeal totally. It doesn't necessarily appeal. I'm not the intended audience, um, so not necessarily appealing to me. But I understand why it has that appeal. Um, so obviously, an artist who really understands what she's doing, even if it doesn't speak to me in terms of its themes, or uh, even if it doesn't um, speak to me as an artistic whole. I said individually, I think things are better, but as an artistic whole, the album is just a little bit too both thematically and musically monotonous. You could kind of be either way. You could be monotonous in either one or the other, but if you're kind of monotonous in both, it becomes a monotonous experience listening to the album, in my opinion. So yes, that is my higher level thoughts on 1989 Taylor's version.
It's interesting coming from someone who's basically only heard random maybe hearing it at the store or on the radio or whatever, which I don't listen to very often at all. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like I only know the party hits,
Right. Right, and those
that.
are like I said, Bad Blood and what Shake It Up,
Yeah, I've heard
those are
before.
those you can put those on and at a party and yeah.
Yeah. I was curious, and I was like, on Taylor Swift's website, I saw she sells CDs, right? Which I guess is to be expected of an artist of her size. For $12.89. This is the normal version, not the deluxe edition. So that's a pretty normal price. But then you go to the rest of her merchandise store, and she has a hoodie, a 1989 hoodie for $75, and I was like, oh gosh. I don't know if that speaks to how much people want this hoodie, or how little people want CDs now.
Well, right before Christmas, I was at Barnes and Noble, which is not the place to buy music, but it was what I had available to me. And I was looking at some albums by someone as a Christmas present, and I noticed they had all the Taylor Swift. Well, probably not all of them. They had some Taylor Swift albums, and they're, I guess, like you said, they're like $12. Then Jean Baptiste, great kind of jazz world, sort of pop-ish, composer, band leader. He and his band Staying Human. They were the house band for Stephen Colbert for up until last year. I love his music. They had his album. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the album, but they had his album, and it was like $28. I'm like, $28 for him, but $12 for Taylor Swift.
I don't know. It's
I guess.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they must figure that in aggregate you make more money in Taylor Swift. Lots of people will buy more people will buy $12 and kind of make up for it.
Mhm.
But man, that was kind of disappointing to me. I mean, if anything, you'd think the good, respected, but not Taylor Swift artist would be less than Taylor Swift. But I guess that's not how it works. It's the opposite of that.
I mean, I feel like music prices are just kind of strange, regardless. So the standard for CDs is feels like $12 ish, minus or plus or minus $1 maybe,
Yeah. And to be fair, the Jean Baptiste was in cardboard case, not in a what do you call them, the hard gem case, jewel case, yeah.
Yeah.
And that probably affects the price too, but
maybe, yeah. But I don't know. I feel like even amongst jewel cases and stuff like that, it's very strange how they all basically cost $12, given some of them are just objectively better. Or maybe some of them have contain more music and longer, some of them are shorter, stuff like that. But regardless, it's if it's a standard edition, it's $12 regardless. Almost always. It's very interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have. So yeah, thanks for listening to Mixed Media Music. If you have any thoughts on what I said, if you want to, spend the next few hours telling me how wrong I am and how everything I just said was heresy, you can go join us on Discord, or you can comment here as well, and share your feelings on my review of Taylor Swift's 1989 Taylor's version. Mixedmediapodcast.com. You can find a link to our Discord. And once again, special shout out to our locals supporters, Post 99 Crime, K Kairos, and Alex Egbert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess we can go to arguing with Reddit with Nathan.
Right. Hopefully everyone transitions. Welcome to Mixed Media Gaming, the segment of the Mixed Media Podcast where, you guessed it, we talk about all things gaming. Today is the Arguing with Reddit segment, so if you haven't seen that before, it's where one of us, in this case myself, will be looking at some Reddit posts, one of them chosen by myself and others chosen by my co-hosts, that I will be giving a live reaction to. I suppose the one I've chosen already is not really quite a live reaction, it's a slightly delayed reaction, but the other ones are live, and so yeah, it's we'll see what I get, see what hot takes there are. But before we begin, let's reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Nathan Esther. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
And usually Irving is here with us for movies, but he's here in spirit in the background doing editing because he's busy. So yeah, I guess we'll go on to the first Reddit post. Maybe.
Pulling it up.
Okay.
My bad. I should have had this preloaded. Yeah, sorry about that. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, I forgot to say actually during my at the beginning of the show, my website is currently public. It's very janky, but it is public. I'll put a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, I've been meaning to work on a website.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. It sometimes works. Currently, it's a bit jank because the trending topics all have like one article. Oh no, it glitched again. Okay, it works, but currently Power World is trending, but it did a weird glitch where like it's supposed to determine 5 trending topics. It, for some reason, just put Power World, and now the articles of all 5 trending topics that exist in the background but are not displayed are like showing under Power World. So you click it, you'll find like just random things. This is like a new bug. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I'll try to fix it at some point. But yeah, okay. Looks like we have a hot take up.
Yeah. This is for me. Yeah. It's a little bit long. So this guy, the title is 0 wish lists in 10 days. Is this normal or is my game trash? I'm going to assume the game is named Pumpkin Woods because he has an image up there. It says Pumpkin Woods. So this person is asking kind of about the process of creating a Steam page and getting traction on Steam. And I know we've talked about this before, but probably a topic worth revisiting. So this person, I'm going to kind of summarize this. This person quit their job to develop their dream game full-time for 3 years. And this person thinks they did a really good job. And they, after only 1 year of development, they decided to create a Steam page to start gathering wish lists. And they got 34 wish lists in the first 30 days. It's a little bit lower than expected, but not necessarily. They don't think it's that bad. But then they had nothing since then, and they know that they have no trailer, and they know that it's important to have a trailer, but they don't want to have a trailer until they're about 95% done building the game. And they also posted it on r/gaming, and people were reacted positively to their way they promoted the game, but none of them added it to their wish list. And the person says they're expecting 3 to 5 wish lists per day from organic stream traffic, but now they've basically gotten to 0. And at their peak, they had 1 per day. And this person is concerned because it also said that I thought my game looks pretty good, top 20% at least, but now I'm not sure because I can't analyze it objectively. So the person concludes, and they want to know, is it? They had read that it's good to start putting, creating a Steam page pretty early in the process to get traction. But now that they're afraid that by having done this without having, the game as developed as they wanted, Steam is kind of going to bury them going forward. Right, so they ask, should you just not publish your game? Publish your Steam page if you are not marketing your game actively.
Yeah, so there's a lot to say here. For one, it's good that it acknowledged the fact there's no video, because that was my first thought. I clicked on the Steam link and I was like, "There's no video." That was like a mistake number one. But as for whether you should wait longer to put up your Steam page, or until you have like a trailer or something like that, versus earlier to be able to aggregate more wish lists in theory over time, they're really just put pros and cons to both, and it's up to you to figure out where you think that sweet spot is. I think that it's probably at least should have a video trailer at this point. So Chris Zukowski, who's like a video game marketing guy,
and he mentions him.
Oh, he does. Okay,
Yeah.
He's like a popular guy. I just didn't expect to see his name there.
Our OP says, I'm very, very familiar with Chris Zukowski and read all his posts and data charts.
Oh, so we should know that he calls these things marketing. He has this term called marketing beats. I don't think this is a general marketing term. I've never heard it elsewhere. So I'll explain in case that needs to be explained. It's like, it's an event in your game's lifetime, or I suppose any product's lifetime, that will give you just a sudden boost in traction, essentially. So, for example, releasing a trailer would be a marketing beat, right? Because for example, YouTube, right? YouTube will promote a video at its launch compared to obviously a year down the line, right? Or even days afterwards. It's less likely. And the same goes for things like Steam. So you want to make use of your marketing beats well. So you'll only ever have one Steam page creation marketing beat. You can't create it again unless you deleted the page and added it or something like that again. So I think that's why it is very good to err on the side of caution and have a trailer, because you really want to make use of that marketing beat, and you don't want it to just essentially waste that marketing beat and not get much out of it. So at this point, it's too late, unfortunately. But that's just, I guess, some advice for the future if he makes other games, or just for other people as well. And also an explanation as to, well, he knows that, I guess, that trailer is very important. As for why he doesn't get wish lists anymore, it really depends on what he is doing to market. I don't know if I missed that. Did he say about what he's doing to get push the game out there? So he's expecting 3 to 5 wish lists per day from organic Steam traffic. So that organic Steam traffic would come from people searching, either directly searching I don't know what that means, but I don't know if there's an official marketing term or something like that. I don't know what organic Steam traffic exactly means. If searching for the game on Steam would be considered that, I assume not, I guess. But
maybe you just or do you just run across it randomly, you start typing in pumpkin and you see pumpkin woods, and
I'm thinking it's probably from you're searching in categories and you're looking at the upcoming games list or whatever, but those games will only show there if they have a lot of wish lists and stuff like that. So maybe if you I don't know what kind of game this is, but I don't know, let's say it's a action RPG or something like that. If you click on the Action RPG tab, maybe if you found it on that list while you're looking, or in Steam's Discovery thing. I think it's called Steam Discover. I can't remember what it's called, but where you the Steam will try to show you games that are coming out or that are already out that are tailored to what you play and things that you might like. The issue with looking through categories is you're going to find like very popular games. You're not going to find things like this. Steam is not very good for marketing itself. You need to be on some other platform to market your Steam page. So I would not personally expect 3 to 5 organic wish lists per day if organic is what we think that it means. So yeah, he really has to just do something else to market. I mean, this Reddit post probably got us some views.
Right. They also mentioned though that they had posted an R something. I don't remember where. Somewhere on here.
It says I didn't advertise it anywhere. Well, I actually posted it on /gaming. It stayed up for 1 hour before it was taken down. 2,000 people saw it. Ratio was 80% positive, but the wishlist effect was absolutely 0.
Well, I don't know anything about marketing video games, but I'm going to guess if you just keep it up on Reddit for 1 hour, that's probably why you didn't get much engagement from it.
Yeah, I mean, 2,000 people is a lot, but the actual conversion rate on these things is kind of low. Now, definitely the conversion rate is lower because he has no trailer. Like me looking at it, right, looking at the Steam page, it's like, I can get some information about this game, but without reading the description, which is incredibly short now I'm looking at it, okay. In fact, I'd probably even reading the description, I probably just would not be comfortable buying it. Not because I think it's a bad game necessarily, just because I don't know enough about the game, words or something, but it's hard it's like describing music or a movie in words, right? You can, but that's not going to give you the full experience of the movie or music, right? It's the same with games, and the closest thing you can get is a video. Hopefully, a video that's some videos are more representative than others, of course, but videos are going to be the best bet, your best bet for being able to convey what your game actually is. So there's no video here. There are some static images that show that it seems to be in maybe an open world setting. It seems that
they do in the tags on Steam. It's the top tags are early access, open world, survival, crafting, relaxing.
Okay, yeah.
A bunch of other things too, like horses.
Okay.
Procedural generation, if you're going to look up that. But
interesting. There's actually a flying horse on these images, or a flying being that looks like a horse-like thing. I don't know. I see like an inventory that I see could be used for crafting and stuff like that. It looks like you're like a wizard of sorts or something like that. But yeah, none of this is like very like, oh, this is like super unique stuff that I would be interested in learning more about. It's kind of like there are many games with these elements. I don't know why I would choose this one specifically, considering I don't know much about it. It's not like visually stunning or something like that. Not to say that it's ugly or anything like that. You look at the about, it's some bullet point lists of very generic things like relaxed atmosphere with minimal combat, craft tools to gather special resources, manage your health, happiness, hunger, and thirst, furnish your dream witch cabin, etc., etc.
Yeah, build your cozy witch home.
Yeah, exactly. Still don't know much about this game, and that doesn't really help my me wanting to want to buy it. So I can imagine some people seeing it and being like, well, I could wishlist this, or I could just like wishlist any other game that I think is better, that I know more information about at least,
Do you have like a limit to how many things you can put on your wish list?
No, you can put as many things as you want on your wish list. But it's like, so the thing with the wish list is the only hassle, I guess, as a consumer is that you get emailed when it's on sale. So if you don't want to get emailed about random games that you don't actually want to buy, Okay. So that's really all wishlisting does, is it just tells you, hey, it's on sale. And also it gives you a convenient list to check to see like, okay, what's in my game backlog essentially? What did I want to play next? You can check your wish list and then pick from there. So easy to compare all the prices and stuff like that. So yeah. As for posting on r/gaming, that's probably not the greatest idea. r/gaming is like the biggest gaming subreddit. It's very easy for your stuff to get just like, obviously you have the most capacity to be seen because there's just more people there, but you also are competing with every other person posting on r/gaming. So it's a little bit tough. And the people
Also,
there
keeping it up for 1 hour, it's probably not.
Well, he said it was taken down. I don't know if there was there's like advertising rules on r/gaming or something like that. I feel like I've definitely seen people post their projects. I wonder if maybe the explicit, like, this is not game progress, but I just want to give you the sort of Steam Store page thing. Maybe that would be something that would be, explicit advertising or something like that. So I don't know, but maybe, so it's definitely putting on a subreddit where it seemed to not be allowed was not a good idea. Also, niche subreddits are good because something like r/gaming, yes, you get to reach all gamers, but not all gamers are gonna like your game. You're not making a game for literally everyone, right? If it's a strategy game, maybe you want to post on, like, I don't know what the strategy gaming subreddit is, maybe r/strategy game. I don't know what it is, and that way you can get a more targeted marketing thing, right? You know that the audience you're marketing to actually is more likely to want to play your game than the average random gamer who has 1 trillion and one other games that he might be wanting to play, and no guarantee he even likes anything remotely like the kind of games that you're making. So I would not post on r/gaming for marketing, or at least, like, especially if it doesn't if it didn't break the rules. I suppose it doesn't hurt to try, but I wouldn't if you were to only post on one. I wouldn't do that. And also, I would not just post on one only because, what's that going to do for you? You're going to want to post on many places. So, yep. I think that's all I have to say about that. I suppose everybody's named the next one. Okay. Okay, what is this? This is r/gaming news. Title is 31 days into 2024 and 6,100 plus video game layoffs have been announced. Jeez. And that's all there is to that. And it links to a Kotaku article of the same name. And the little tagline says Sega. How do you pronounce this video game developer name? Is it Eidos? Eidos Montreal? People are going to yell at me for that. Airship Syndicate and Microsoft, the latest companies to announce cuts. That sort of continues a trend of just like a trend of more layoffs that have been going on since 2023, and mostly 2023. I feel like it was peak layoff time. 2022 wasn't as bad, I don't think. It's getting kind of not good. Now, it's not like, it's interesting because you don't see a lot of companies straight up just dying. You don't see a lot of companies just like, oh, this company's gone now. Well, in the video games industry, that's kind of normal. That's been happening for a long time, like just forever. Usually, companies that are owned by larger companies like EA or Activision Blizzard, every once in a while you find out, hey, the company doesn't exist anymore. It's not like it literally gets like vanquished. It's more like it gets consumed by some other company that's part of the larger company or something like that. So, this is not. I haven't noticed like more or as any large video game development studios just go out of business, but there are certainly a lot of layoffs. I'm not sure if this is due to a lot of overhiring. I mean, it seems weird because a lot of these job cuts are like lots of people at once. It's not like, oh, we're shedding off like a dozen people. It's like, oh, we're getting rid of 100. It's like, wow, that's it's very strange to also not do that. Like it wasn't a gradual thing. It was like a just we get one time 100 thing. The first comment says, but why you make so much money with games? Cyberpunk 2077, for example, sold 25 million copies despite releasing broken and unfinished with bad reviews. So with complete and finished games, you can make even more money, and for that you need developers. Well, we don't know who they're firing specifically. They're not necessarily firing developers. And I would argue that a lot of new games, so a lot of live service games, don't actually need developers that much post-launch. Once all the bugs are fixed, the live service play is just to make a lot of content, like art content. And so you need maybe like visual artists and musicians and whatever it is. And I suppose you do need developers to implement maybe certain additional things that might come with those things, and minor updates and stuff like that. But the main bulk of the work is no longer in the developer's hands once the game is made for live service games. Now, in the case of Cyberpunk 2077, how much money did they actually make? They were making that game for a very long time. That game was in development forever. I don't remember how long it was. But
revenue is not the same thing as profit.
For sure, yeah. Now, it's hard to know. Actually, I can probably check. Let's see. Yeah, so Cyberpunk 2077 is, what is this? Is this the 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th? It has a record for 9th most concurrent players on Steam. And of course, Cyberpunk 2077 is not only on Steam, it's on GOG, because owned by the same parent company, and it might be on Epic Games as well. So who knows? Maybe the concurrent players might be underrepresented here. Although I would assume Steam is the bulk of the players. But saying like, Cyberpunk 2077 sold 25 million copies, that's a unicorn right there. That's not normal. That's a top 10 game ever of all time. That's like saying like, oh man, why don't more artists, why don't they do more tours? Taylor Swift is making so much money. It's like, yeah, because she's Taylor Swift. It's very very different thing there. And I mean, you can kind of point to maybe the brokenness of the fact that the studio behind Cyberpunk 2077 made The Witcher. The Witcher was a very popular series. They made 3 of them, all of them very popular games. And despite this, they took this long and they still released a broken game with all these resources, right? So it's not like once you have money, it's like the magic bullet, right? And it's not even like once you have that, it's easier to become profitable again. Now, that's not to say that Cyberpunk 2077 is not profitable. I'm sure it is. 25 million copies is insane. Yeah, it's definitely not simple. It's not a simple. We sold a lot of copies because games are just really, really expensive to make. So, yeah. See, are there any other hot takes in this thing? Games made a lot of money in the last decade. Investors see line go up and overpay executives to do that. Executives enjoy the money for a few years. When the investors' earnings drop and they start to crack the whip, rather than stop spending and reduce salaries, executives lay off employees. I don't think this is the case. Well, maybe this is somewhat the case, but I don't think this is the entire case because of how often video game studios have just forever been going under, just literally just dying, over and over and over again, right? Presumably, the executive would not be consuming like that much salary if he knew that it was leading to literal bankruptcy, right? So, like Telltale Games went bankrupt a couple years ago. They had some crazy stuff lined up for them. They had like Netflix deals lined up, like I don't know, absolutely insane. But they just couldn't make enough money, I guess. The game was a story-driven game. I mean, those are the types of games they made, and they didn't have the live service play where they can run on relatively low spending and still generate large amounts of money, relatively large amounts of money. And I don't know. I guess they couldn't be efficient. I'm not sure what other internal errors there might have been in that company. I remember looking into it like when that happened a couple years ago, but I don't remember the specifics of the issues. But come on, I don't know. When you go on bankrupt and you had a Netflix deal lined up, it's crazy. They were going to make I think it was a Stranger Things game. I think they actually denied that for some other opportunity, which never ended up coming into fruition, unfortunately. But yeah. And the last hot take, or last Reddit post, potentially hot take, is from me. This is from r/gaming, and it says, "Have you ever reached, quote, the fight, that fight?" And the description says, "You know what I'm talking about. You keep hoarding all those potions, ammo, and health, preparing for the dire situation. You really need them. That dire situation, you really need them, and then you beat the game with an inventory that's completely full. So, do you ever reach this imaginary fight?" So, this is this is like something that comes from a common experience the gamers have, where games that have consumables, so those are items that can be consumed, I suppose, self-evidently. But things like, I don't know, health potions in like a combat game, and that will give you, health on demand essentially, or ammo, and also in combat games and things like this. Or think about Minecraft, right? It's just consumables everywhere. That's how you craft things out of. Although those aren't traditional consumables, people don't really think about them like that. But yeah, things that you consume to do stuff, right? In a lot of these games, what ends up happening is, especially when consuming is not the goal, like Minecraft, or not the main thing like Minecraft, but more like in combat games, where it's more of a, it's not even oftentimes required to beat the game to use these consumables. People tend to hoard them as they acquire them throughout the game, and they're like, oh, well, what if I need it like later, And it's like, then the game ends up ending, and you're like, I just never use them for all the time. I definitely can resonate with that feeling. And to answer the question of have I ever reached that fight where I have to use them all, no. It's always the game ends, and I'm like, wow, I still didn't use it. But the reason why I thought this was an interesting, it wasn't even like a take on anything, just a question, but I thought it was interesting. It made me think, like, why don't more games have consumable caps where, realistically speaking, a person can only hold so many things? And I understand that healing potions are not the most realistic things in the world, but it wouldn't be so, immersion breaking to have a limit on how many things you can carry of each thing. Some games have that, some don't, but a lot of them don't, or I would say that it's possible that actually maybe their limits are too high sometimes. So maybe it's like a thing of like, well, if I don't use this potion, I'll just keep getting more. But if it's such that you're at the max capacity and well, I'm gonna get a potion on average in X minutes or whatever, in X stages or something like that, you just kind of like, you don't give a number to it, but intuitively you figure that out, right? And you're at the max capacity, you're probably be more likely to use them when you know that you're gonna get a new one anyways very soon, right? Whereas if you don't have a max capacity, it's like, why not just let it keep building up, So, that's interesting. Like, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like that part of the industry just hasn't evolved. It's just been the same forever, and the problem has been the same. But I kind of understand why, because the problem is so like not important in a way. Because oftentimes these features are like very like, once again, you could beat the entire thing without really even utilizing them. Will it be harder? Yeah, but like, it's kind of it's just I don't know. It's somewhat expected, but I never question the idea of like, why don't we evolve that aspect of things? So yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I think that's our last Reddit thing.
All right. Well, then thank you for joining us on Mixed Media tonight. Make sure you give us a like, thumbs up, whatever it is on YouTube or on Rumble or wherever you're listening to us. Make sure leave a comment on places where you can leave comments. You can also again join us on our Discord and also support us on Locals. Special shout out to our supporters on Locals again: 99 Crime, Host, K. Karras, and Alex Egbert. You can find links to everywhere our podcast streams, and to our Discord, and to our Locals page, www.mixedmedia.com. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching and listening.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We back, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers. No need for the